Welcome, Elaine. I am super excited to be chatting with you today.
Thanks for having me. I am thrilled to be here with you.
So, I have your book and I started reading it. It's called Get Quiet, for those of who are listening on the audio only. And it's Seven Simple Paths to Truth of Who You Are. And first of all, I wanted to say I loved it, and I would recommend anybody who's a reader to read it because I didn't even expect it. It's really, really well written, and it made me want to keep reading, stay up, and I even brought it like to my dentist. I just wanted to keep turning the pages and keep reading. So, really, really well done. And I wanted to ask you, when did you connect with your interest or passion or part of your purpose as a writer?
Well, I was just going to say my 16-year-old self thanks you, Baiba, because I I had a best friend when I was in high school who gave me a diary for my 16th birthday. And I have been writing ever since then. And it's just a way that I have always processed life. I really feel like journaling is the best therapy for me. And so I've always written, it's always been a passion of mine, but also a tool to really help me get through life and understand the outside world. And also, we hold so much in this overthinking mind, like to get it all out on paper or to get it out into your phone. Like sometimes I'll write in my journal, sometimes I'll just voice text it just to get it out of me. And so that's where the beginnings of my writing started. I never thought I would be a published author, that's for sure. But here I am, and I just listened and trusted and kept pen to paper, and it happened. So I couldn't be more thrilled, and I'm glad that you like it, and for you to even take it to the dentist's office. You know, with my dental background, you probably read that I used to be a dental hygienist, and so
I didn't
I
know. Yes.
and so for you to have it visit a dental office tickles me.
Yeah, I just to put the two and two together. That's right. And so you started writing at 16. So did you even in school, like in English, and like you picked up that you had that I guess either talent or interest or a strength.
Yes, it was a strength, but really what the biggest strength was for me to be aware of the truth of my life and to want to understand that.
Mhm.
Because sometimes you can be a great writer and then sometimes you can be a great messenger, but sometimes those two aren't always the same person.
Yep.
So I feel like I'm a great writer, but I think I'm an even better messenger for this book. I mean, I wrote the book and I love the writing process. And just being awake to my life and wanting to process life through writing is, I think, my gift.
That's what I wanted to say. It sounds like it was a powerful processing tool for you.
Extremely powerful. And I've been to writers' workshops around the world. Like this has been something that when I wasn't working my full-time 9 to 5 in the earlier years of my life, just as a single mom living paycheck to paycheck as a dental hygienist, I would take some liberties and go to local writers' workshops. I even traveled to central Mexico once as a splurge to go to a very famous writer's workshop and meet these wonderful authors. And it was there that I really began to know for certain that I wanted to be a published author one day.
So what was that pull? That one thing is to write, to journal, right? To know that it helps you process and make meaning and sense and get things out of your head, but like it's another thing to be pulled to go to writers workshops and kind of what was that pulling power?
I believe that our soul, when we're connected to it and quiet enough, we have urges and we have these inklings and we have this intuition. If we're really quiet enough to hear those subtle messages, almost it's like something is carrying you to that place. And I really do feel like this extra otherworldly energy was making decisions on my behalf, that the conscious mind would say, no, I'm too afraid, or no, I can't afford that, or all these limitations, or who am I to be an author? And so, like, something else literally takes hold of you, thank God, if you allow it and trust it. And I really feel like that's what led me to all these writers' workshops. It was a place for me, that I knew there was community there. I knew that there was safety there. I knew that I was curious about wanting to hear what the other people were writing about. Because when you get in a room full of writers and the moderator is, asking you to write based on certain prompts, and then you all share what you've written afterward, that is a super cool experience. In fact, that's what I do in my own community now, because it was so enriching to hear, like, a lot of women, like older women's stories, like, their where they've been and how they got through difficult times and how they healed from grief and loss. And that's what happens when you're a writer. And it's just a magical community. So I really felt like those were my people. We always say, like, those are my people. And then you have to say, well, what environment are you in when you say that? And make note of that, because that tells you really where your soul is leading you.
That's amazing. And is this your first book?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know you started kind of talking about it. I want to hear, or I want you to tell us a little more about your journey here, and also the second part, whichever way you want to start with, is what are you focused on now? Because I know that writing is not the only thing that you're doing.
That's right. That's right. So so two parts to that question. What I'm doing now is I've written this book. I've birthed it out into the world. I couldn't be more happier that people are enjoying it and getting a lot of healing from it. That's the thing that I hear the most right now, is that people are really, their hearts are opening up. Their creativity is just exploding. So this is all the feedback I'm getting. But in order for me to get to that place, it for writers, it never starts that great. It usually starts with like everything's going to hell moment.
So musicians
And
or actors, you
everyone, and so that was me. I had a moment, where when I was in my early 40s, and I was in a situation that I was in a very difficult marriage. I had two small sons, and I was faced with either staying or leaving. And I made the most difficult decision in my life to leave and complete that relationship with two small children. I had all the luxuries anyone would want. People thought I was crazy. I lived in a big house. I was married to a doctor. I was able to be a stay-at-home mother. We had the cars, vacations, the private schools. But if anyone really was to see me in that home, they would see me crying myself to sleep every night.
know.
So I wanted to be the healthiest mother. That was my whole intention, was to be the healthiest mother that I could be to my kids, because that's what they deserved. So I left the marriage. We moved into this tiny little home. I went to work full time, and I started to get my life back together so that I could be healthy for them. And I needed to do it quickly because we were all hurting really badly. And so this book is about how I did that and how I got back on my feet again, and how I healed, and how I had what I would call a very intense, amazing spiritual awakening. Because in those early years, when I was asleep at the wheel or on autopilot, we hear a lot of, like, we're just on autopilot trying to get through the day. well, the car crashed, so to speak, in my life because of that. So I went on a journey to an awakening, to not looking away at the truth of my life anymore, because I feel addicted to that, to looking away at the truth of our lives.
In so in your instance, it was a marriage and relationship. And sometimes, that's obviously a big one for many people, where, at a certain point of time, if you realize that it's not working, it can also be an autopilot in a job that provides you, like you said, with a certain level of comfort, status, money, insurance, in United States, and like familiar and safety, right? And how, so no matter, so it could be different things for different people, but how did you know? Obviously, first of all, you had a lot of courage to do that. But what was kind of the tipping point where you knew? Because a lot of people kind of feel they keep going through the motions, right? Because of the fear. There's a lot of unknown, like you said. There are other people affected. And how did you know that you have to do that?
And so I left a marriage. I also completed a 20-year career as a dental hygienist. And in both of those cases, I would say the theme was that I was allowing myself to be dishonored and I was betraying myself. And in the end, I can point outwards to people dishonoring me, but I ultimately take responsibility for that. And I was dishonoring myself. So when I left my marriage, I felt like I was being dishonored. So I went to go find out how to honor myself. When I left my career in dental hygiene, that was a little different because I loved being a dental hygienist. But I had at that point cared for over 40,000 patients one-on-one. And if you know anyone in healthcare, nurses, doctors, anyone, it's not easy to be caring for other people. But what I learned in my dental hygiene room that I wasn't just cleaning teeth. At the end of that career, I was awakened to something else. And I said to myself, if I'm going to leave this career, then I've got to know really not just that I was cleaning teeth, but what else have I been doing here? Who else have I been being here? So if you're thinking about leaving anything,
Mhm.
take a hard look about, especially in your career, what is the job description then, but what has come very easy to you? Because you can take that skill set and bring it anywhere to any job. And so that's what I did. I knew that I was a good listener. I knew that I held space for people. I knew that people felt safe with me. And I also had, can you imagine, putting my hands over 40,000 patients, hovering over their energy field. So that was my life class, Baiba. And so I became an energy worker and a life coach because that's what I realized I had really been learning.
Hmm. I love what you're saying because, like, so I think what happens is people, we can know some of our strengths or some of the skills, like you said, that are you're good at, that you bring. And sometimes it is harder to kind of reflect and um, kind of distill them, if you will, the way you distill. And it's even harder to connect them to, okay, but what will be that job or that profession that will be more energizing and fulfilling, because quite a few roles can draw on similar skills, right? And there are like thousands of professions. So how, because when I read the book, I think it took you like you, even when you were going through the divorce, it took you a few years, right? You still were continuing on the dental hygienist path
That's right.
before you um kind of like connected the dots, right, to actual coaching. Can you maybe share a bit more the process of how you did it, kind of, and I think it can help also others who are in the situation and don't know how to connect those dots.
Yes, and you can strategically connect those dots, but then you can also be intuitive and feel through those things. So initially it was a feeling. It was a feeling of I was curious. I was curious about being in this spiritual space,
Mhm.
to going to conferences where some of my favorite authors and spiritual thinkers of our time were meeting and speaking.
So not only
And
sorry to interrupt. So not
yeah,
only writers workshops that you went to, but you also went to kind of spiritual conferences that you were
that's
drawn.
right. Yes, yes, because I was curious about that world. And I had disconnected from my own spirituality. I had disconnected in my most stressful times. I had stopped having conversations with God. And so that was the missing piece for me. And I needed to get back into that and have the awareness that um, the reason why I'm feeling so fearful is because I feel like I'm doing this all alone. And when you wake up to your life, which I believe is what spirituality is, we realize we've got a whole team out there working on our behalf that we cannot see. And so that's what I discovered when I went to these spiritual conferences. And so it was just my curiosity to what I felt I wanted to learn, and I that's where I started. What did I want to learn? What was I curious about? In fact, one year, I this was maybe 2 years after my divorce. I wanted to re-engage in life again because sometimes when we go through really difficult moments, we feel so stuck that we can't even get off the couch at night.
Mhm.
And I decided to re-engage in my life again. And what I did was every single month for 12 months, for a whole entire year, I called it my out of the box challenge. I would do one thing a month that I was curious about. One of those was going to a spiritual conference. I had done many other things, but every month I did something a little bit out of my comfort zone. Not too much. I still felt safe, but something I was curious about. After 12 months, I was able to leave my career as a dental hygienist. I had gotten my website up for life coaching. I had become a master life coach and started to do energy work. It was only because in that year I committed to re-engaging into things that I was just curious about.
Mhm.
And that's the playfulness around finding your purpose. This is a very feminine, beautiful way to go about your life. It's not about forcing anything anymore. We've done that.
Mhm.
We've done that in spades. Now it's time to do it in a graceful, very feminine, very intuitive way.
I love that you say that because I think it's the first time I hear about purpose, finding your purpose or discovering it in a playful way. Because we can put so much pressure. It can feel like, okay, to um to maintain my lifestyle, right? To replace my income, I have to know it now and I have to do it, right? At the same level where maybe there's a career beforehand that's been 10, 15, 20 years. So it can feel um, much more urgent than playful. So, okay, so you did one thing a month, kind of exploring, following your curiosity. And how did the life coaching come together? Like, how did you get the inclination and kind of the intuition hit or lead that is it for you?
It's a great question. And One of the things that I noticed in my dental hygiene about myself, my dental hygiene career with all those patients, was how I was helping people and their lives. I learned so much by, after 20 years of really sitting with the human condition, I was learning about how people, who was healthy, why people weren't healthy, what made people happy, what made people unhappy. I mean, I had put so many patterns and behaviors together that I felt like I could really help people in that way. Back then, life coaching was just getting started. People really didn't know much about it. But so I had that inkling. And then when I went to one of the spiritual conferences, one of the breakout rooms, and this is where it kind of goes back to like how I feel like I've just been carried through this whole this whole process by something way greater than me,
Mm,
because I could have signed up, Biba, in that spiritual conference to maybe 10 or 11 breakouts. And
mm,
for some reason, I landed in the breakout room with the woman who would be the head of the life coaching school here in Arizona, of all people and of all
yeah,
places. There I was.
wow.
And I tell this story in the book, you probably remember, where at the time there was no way I could afford to go to life coaching school, but I was interested and I was curious. So I
Mm,
thought, well, I would, maybe save up for that. Well, you know what happened after that session? She told everyone to put their names in a bowl, that she would pull a name to find out, like, and gift a program of whatever your liking was to that one person.
wow.
I wasn't the one person. She was so generous. She gifted it to everybody in that breakout room. So then I was able to afford to go and choose the classes that I wanted from her school. So, you can't kind of make this stuff up. When you have an idea and you have an intention, I believe that everything is really generated by pure intention.
What was your intention?
My intention was that I wanted to help people. It's always been my intention. I wanted to help myself. I wanted to heal myself. I wanted to be the best mother I could possibly be to my kids. And so they say when you go to life coaching school, the first time you do it, it's for you. And the second time when you repeat it, it's for your clients. And so,
Right.
so it
It's
was
also
my
like
own,
psychology. Many people
yeah,
go there because of their own. They were not untangled
that's right.
with issues. That makes
that
sense.
was that was my case too. So it really helped me heal. And then it helped me on the second round. It helped me gather the tools I would need to finally sit and help my clients. So that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years.
I love that because so two things I'm thinking as you're saying this, your intention was to help people, but you were helping people even as a hygienist, right? There's so many ways to help people. Was there something else to that intention? Because you had been helping people for years.
Yes, that's it's a very important part of my story. So thank you for asking. It was that I was wanting to help people in a more holistic way. Um, Dentistry had become misaligned with me in a lot of ways. There were fluoride treatments that were being prescribed that I didn't personally agree with in terms of the toxicity that I feel is in fluoride.
Mm-hmm.
I was also dubbed the dental whisperer. You'll probably have a laugh around that because I literally used energy work to calm my patients. And so using these holistic modalities and traditional settings, the offices I worked at did not like those things. And so I feel like I got squeezed out. I squeezed my own self out because I went on, my intention was, how can I heal myself holistically?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Get Quiet was written, based off of my holistic process to heal and then to discover who I truly am in this lifetime
To help people, but in a way that's authentic and aligned with
in a
your,
holistic way, in a holistic approach.
yeah.
Yes, in a natural, healthy, holistic approach.
And did you keep like, so did you? how did you go about keeping that intention? Like, was it just one thought and then it kind of like with the time manifested, or was it something that you kept putting it out there, into the universe?
It was always top of mind because when you're raising children by yourself, you're always trying to be the best mom you can be. And so I was noticing through my writing what I would be doing in order to become holistically healthy. What was my process? And so, because of my writing, I was able to really look throughout the weeks and the months and the years of what I really had been doing this whole time. And so, the very first thing I did was I started walking a labyrinth. And you probably read in the book that, that's where I originally went to get quiet, to be able to hear my voice and not the voice of the world.
Mhm.
And for listeners, a labyrinth is a 4,000-year-old ancient tool, a meditative, like walking tool. And the metaphor is that you walk to the center of this labyrinth and you walk out. And it's a pathway that twists and turns. And you can find them in hospitals and churches and on private properties. And they're just a wonderful tool to get you in a meditative state. So when I talk about getting quiet, it's not in the traditional sense of sitting cross-legged in a dark room meditating. This is a very active meditation. And that's what I have heard that so many people appreciate, because it's not easy to just sit in silence. So this is a moving meditation, and it guides you through different paths that I had to go through to find this holistic healing. And the first path, as you know, is all about nurturing your body. And
Mm.
that's where I started on this path, on this whole journey, was to move my body in a gentle way. I used to run half marathons, I'd climb mountains, I'd be doing these crazy feats. And then finally I was like, no, 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 this is about, again, gently nurturing our bodies.
Mm.
So that's where I started. And I began to see in my writing, because I would write down everything I was doing, that I was swimming in the pool and um, and taking baths and really reconnecting to my body again. Because we're so in our overthinking mind that we forget we have this wonderful body that's taking us everywhere we need to go, and we need to take care of it.
I guess that's a big part of what it is to love yourself,
100%.
because we are so good at pushing ourselves. And that's what's celebrated too.
100%. If I were to say what happened as a result of these paths that I've prescribed for myself and now that I write about, is that in the center I found the truth of who I am, and that is that I am love, and that I am loved by an energy that is infinite, that I call God. And so just connecting to that energy and that love, you can do anything in life when you know that that's something that no one can take away from you, is that we are this love. We are this energy. And when we connect to it, and not only just know it's there, but connect to it, but then also harness the energy that is it. And when you create from that place, you're unstoppable then.
So I can feel it. Like it's a visceral feeling. And I like also you share like one some of the practices, like putting your hand on your heart, right? There's some like physical things that help you connect with it too. Um, it was also interesting that you're talking about getting out of your house, because I feel like it was kind of like an aha for me, because sometimes it's hard, even you can be quiet in your house, and I think it can be helpful to go to a different place, like a labyrinth, get out of your day-to-day environment where you're taking care of the kids, of the family, right? Cleaning, washing, cooking, right? Working, doing all the things. So as you were talking about it, it came to me that that's probably also kind of that can be helpful. The part that can be very helpful for people is actually getting outside of your house.
And you're exactly right. That's the second path after nurturing your body. It's about getting control of your environment and actually not only just cleaning and clearing your environment, but being aware of where you are at any given moment. And for me to be outside in nature,
Mhm.
to feel the sun on me, to feel the wind and the breeze, and to hear the birds singing, like I felt alive again instead of this autopilot of going from home to work to pick up the kids, from work to home to, I mean, to the sporting events. I mean, you can just get so mindless and so
Yeah,
on autopilot. So the environment that you find yourself in and being intentional about where you want to be in this quiet it's huge. It's huge because on this path of cleaning and clearing your environment, that's when your heart opens. This was the path where I opened my heart enough to be able to start manifesting now my fiance that we've been together now for 9 years. So this was the path that did that because my heart, we build up such thick walls, especially after loss, after disappointment, after having grieved whatever that we've been grieving.
yeah.
um, we have to break those walls down. And I have found that the environment in which you live in, that's what helps you.
I think I was reading that today, just before our conversation, and it actually it inspired me to clean up my office before our conversation. I was like dusting and vacuuming, like putting a candle on. So I love that. So it's so funny, like these things we know, we've heard, but we need these reminders
We
to
do.
actually live it.
100%. And it's funny because you're not the first person who's done that. I've gotten so many emails from these loyal readers who are like, I cleaned this whole closet and it's been years. And so it just tickles me that the book is motivating people to do that because it really is what happens. Like you just become so much more at peace in your own home and at work and you can feel like you can breathe again. This is the chapter in Get Quiet where you begin to breathe again. I feel like we hold our breaths
Oh yeah.
throughout our day.
Oh yeah.
And it's like we just need to, we need to remember like the thing that I use, like a tool that I use to remember to breathe again is if my brain is just completely spinning and I know I'm spinning out, I'll be like, okay, where's your breath?
Mhm.
Where's your breath? And I mean, that's probably, at least once a day. So,
Yeah.
so, we can have a prompt to remember to breathe again.
Like a sticky note.
Yes. Or I know I have friends who will be like, well, anytime I check my email, that's my prompt to
Mm.
tune into my breath. Yeah. So whatever prompt you want to give yourself, but prompts help a lot.
I have a friend, I don't know if she has it anymore, but she had like a necklace that had said breathe. Yeah. So yes, prompts help. And as you were talking about that sense of aliveness, um, which sadly, or the reality is that many of us go through life, and maybe it's like after 30 or 40, but it's probably like uh most of our moments we're just going through, like you said, through those motions, like robotic, like checking off things, getting to the next thing. It's like a groundhog day of an existence, and we like, okay, we have like it was Mother's Day, and then you're like, you like, I went to like the strawberry field with my son, and like I just felt that like that aliveness with the flowers, right? That we went to a farm, they had all these flowers, and you're like, but and I think this is what we long for, right? We long for feeling that aliveness more and more. And many times that's probably also why what prompts us to reevaluate, right? And also look for something that's more aligned um, with our truth, whether it's work wise, relationship wise. It's if we start, you know, if those occurrences are more rare than often because we long to feel that. We want to
That's
feel
right.
alive.
We totally do. In fact, my mentor, Alexander, I love him. He says, we need to feel alive, alert, and aglow again.
Mm,
And I believe that what we're missing in life is that we're really missing ourselves. And when we are weighed heavy with everything that we hold as women, our emotions, trying to fix everybody and everything, uh, you name it, all the responsibilities that weigh heavy on us. This is when we can't feel that vitality because we're weighed down way too heavy. And this is the premise of Get Quiet, is to release everything that's weighing us down so that we can find the inner space. Because that inner space is all light in frequency. So there's nothing that we can bring on that journey that's going to weigh us down heavy, or else we can't connect to the frequency of the light, of God, of that energy that I
mm,
talk about and Get Quiet, because that is where we're headed. We are headed to the center of ourselves, and it's just pure light.
mm. I mean, so feeling alive, feeling light, feeling in love with life, right? Those are kind of all describing those feelings or the states that we really, really want. So I know you started sharing a couple of the steps and also kind of what you did, right, by the 12 months of doing different thing that you felt pulled to. Um, is there anything else you would share as some of kind of the more powerful practices also that you've seen, also from coaching others, how people, if they are kind of on that, knowing something's not working for them, they are not energized by their life, but they want to, feel excited again and feel alive, like what else would you have seen work?
Well, this is going to sound woo woo, and I'm like the last person to be woo woo. I'm very practical, but the thing that really has got me to where I am today,
Mhm.
um, which is a very, very different place than I was when I shared my story of my life crashing down, is when I got quiet in this way, I was able to hear clear messages. And I believe that messages are the highest currency, even more than money. Because when you actually hear messages from your soul speaking to you, or from your intuition, or from God, whatever you want to call that voice that is truly you, you will be guided and directed to places where you and only you are meant to go. And so you're not gonna waste your precious time, which is your life, with at certain jobs or people or whatever. I mean, you are on a path that you're meant to be on, and I believe that everybody has a soul's calling.
Mhm.
And the people that I've seen who are the sickest, the most unhappiest, are the people who have not gotten quiet enough to hear what their soul's calling is.
Yeah, I
And
love how
so,
you talked about, sorry, in the book, um, was about, fulfillment. And we talk about today women can do anything, which often means that we end up doing everything. and that we've lost touch with our femininity, creativity, and natural flow, which means we've lost our inner connection, our sense of purpose, and our very selves. And the most rebellious counterculture thing you can possibly do today is to get quiet. Yet quiet is an essential state to be in, to live a life that you love. And that's when you can truly hear the whispers of the universe guiding you towards your life's purpose and all the things that are meant for you. So what if it is like, even for you, right? It was multifaceted. And sometimes I think that can be a little overwhelming and scary because you have these different interests, right? I mean, it could be like, even for me, I can tell you, so I've thought about, um I've had a career in talent acquisition, recruitment, right? It's also working with a lot of people. Kind of when you were talking about energy of a lot of people, I can very much relate because I worked with thousands of people, over the years. And but then you have like, I will have this idea, oh, but I like fashion design. Oh, maybe I should start sewing, but I don't know anything about sewing. Or maybe I should do acupuncture because I'm really interested also in that, natural wellness. And you can get, and then you're like, what if your soul is not telling you, okay, or you're not getting a clear direction, okay, this is the thing, because especially with the years, I'm sure you might have felt the same, that you also feel this like you don't have the same sense that when you're 20, you have their whole life left, right? Now, sometimes people can have this sense of, okay, if I'm over 30s, 40s, whatever it is, 50s, that there's limited time and you have to figure it out and you don't have time to play and put focus in all these different directions. Or maybe it's a false narrative. My ego is telling me you need to go in one direction and you need to decide which one is it.
And I appreciate all of that. And that's really the monkey mind and the ego wanting to get it right
Hmm. Totally.
and make the right decision. And I've been in those shoes. So to me, purpose is more about not the doing, but the being.
Mhm. I love when you're saying being, but then I'm thinking, oh, I've thought about it in the past because I've spent also a lot of time quiet, on my own. And sometimes it can feel like, how much time does it take? And when we're being as well, right? It's not like we stop being when we're doing.
They go together, but I think that what we're missing when I say we're missing ourselves, we're really missing the beingness. And that beingness is the love that we are missing, that we don't have for ourselves, because we are so in the rat race of needing to know what it is exactly we need to be doing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So purpose to me is really, how do you want to feel every day? I think that we take ourselves everywhere we go.
Hmm.
And for me, I've always been a natural coach. I've always been someone who holds space and who can help people with their life. I mean, I was doing that on the playground when I was 7 years old. So I think we can all connect the dots throughout our life. And one thing that's just come easy to us, that people will say, "Oh, you're so good at that," but we take it for granted. So I think that we need to identify that. And then there are so many things that we can do with that one skill, with that one personality trait. And I think that in this lifetime, one of our purposes is to experience ourselves in as many different ways as we possibly can,
Like to play
to play
and to create.
and to create.
I love what you're saying because when you were also talking about connecting with that love, right? Feeling that, and I don't remember exactly the words you use, but you can that you're not alone, and kind of it sounded like a visceral experience. Can you tell us how, like, what was the moment, a little more about the moment and how it happened?
The very first day I walked the labyrinth, I heard a very clear message, and it was like someone was standing right next to me, Biba, and I was like, but there was nobody there. And I now know that it was God, my soul's voice. And the message was probably the most important message I've ever gotten after hundreds of walks around the labyrinth. And that message was this: surrender.
Mm.
And I was like, surrender? No, not for me. I mean, my whole life will come crashing down if I surrender. But that's really what it took to be able to lighten up my life, because I was holding way too much. That was not for me to hold. And we do that because we want to control everything. We want to control every outcome in our lives, but that's not healthy, and it's not reality either. You can only control your universe. we're all a singular universe, that then comes together collectively. But so I heard surrender loud and clear. I went back to my car that day. I turned on the car radio, and the announcer was talking about the subject, surrender. So you begin to see these synchronicities happen, and these clues and these riddles and these things that happen in your life. And that's your soul talking to you and saying, I'm here with you. You got this. You're on the right path. And that's the magic that we're just always kind of waiting for. It's like all those synchronicities that we go, wait, that was weird. That's the word that people will generally use when synchronicities happen. The weirdest thing happened, and I'm thinking to myself, I used to think that too, but it's not weird at all. It's actually the most real thing that's even occurring at the moment. So that's what started my journey of having faith and trusting that when I got quiet and did my own prescriptive pathways that I write about and get quiet, that these synchronicities were always happening and guiding me, and I was trusting them. And every time I would hear something else, I would trust it and move in that direction. And I know that's what got me to this place, sitting here today in this present moment that I'm always aware of, to being an author, and not just an author with any publisher, but my dream publisher, Hay House.
Yeah.
And you just can't make this stuff up, but it does take courage. It does take for you to be awake to your life and to pay attention and write along the way, because the writing helps.
Mm. And so many times, like we know writing helps, but we resist it.
And it may not be your jam, and that's okay. You can find other ways to express yourself. Some people like to salsa dance. Some people, like to gather with friends. I mean, some people like to paint, whatever your creative outlet is. But
I
just
guess
to get it, yeah, but
that's
just to
kind of
get
what
it out of you.
that's what you said, that 12 months of experimentation, right? If you don't know, because there, like you said, there are so many practices and so many different ways or paths to walk back to yourself, home to yourself, right? And I guess that could be a great fun activity, right? To try, and then it will tell you which one resonates with you, which one, what works for you.
100%. It's all about how you want to feel. So when I was first divorced, I did go salsa dancing, and it made me feel like my feminine self again, because when you're a single mom, you're really in your masculine a lot, because you're making the hard decisions, you're responsible for finances and everything. And so I know that my soul was saying, like, okay, you're in your masculine, but you've got to make sure that you don't disconnect from your feminine, Elaine. And so I was seeking things out that were supporting that part of me too. And I really do feel like we are carried, because It's like that those otherworldly energies really know what you need. And sometimes we'll be like, I don't know why I signed up for this. I just did, you know. Sometimes it's not your logical mind. It really is a force beyond anything you can even imagine that's guiding you, that's carrying you through difficult times.
Yeah, so you really kind of have to open yourself up. And what I'm hearing then, I mean, coaching now has become super popular, right? And now it can also be like you open Instagram, now everybody's a coach or is teaching coaching, right? And it's also not everybody's path. And but it sounds like when you are taking the steps, and I like how you said in this playing, right? With the possibilities, is that when it is aligned with you, it sounds like the doors open, kind of what you were talking about, the life coach school, right? And you getting it, at first as a scholarship or for free, however you want to call it, right? That it's kind of like through those synchronicities, as you take the steps, the universe will open those doors when you're on your soul's path.
100%. 100%. See, I feel like the problems with the world is that we are so connected into our minds and into our bodies
Here.
that we have totally forgotten that we are actually souls first having a human experience.
Mhm.
And so we've disconnected to that soul and that soul's voice. And a funny story is you talk about synchronicities. The day that I graduated from the life coaching school, we had been in this one particular area of the school, and these like 3 rooms that interconnected. It was a very large room. But at the time, with all these classes, every day the tables would be there and the chairs would be there. So I never knew what the floor looked like. You know, it was just a floor. But then on graduation day, they had taken all the tables and the chairs out of the room, and they all told us to walk in the room. We were carrying a rose, and the whole room was candlelit for the ceremony. And do you know what was the design on the floor of that life coaching room? A labyrinth.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
When we are awake to our lives in this way,
Mhm.
our life becomes absolutely magical. And that is what I wish for everybody, to wake up to this, because it is right there for us if we only pay attention, get quiet, and trust.
That's what we all want. We want the magic, right? We want our lives to feel like that. So these 7 steps or paths in the book are essentially leading us. You're sharing your formula of how to open up to that magic, to connect with your soul's calling and purpose.
That's right. It's and it's a very intuitive path. Like the 7 paths are so intuitive. I mean, think about any time you've signed up for a new yoga class or got a new pair of running shoes and just started wanting to move your body. I mean, these are intuitive things that we know that we've got to shake this energy that's stuck inside of us. And so these are very intuitive paths. In fact, I know where somebody is in their life based upon what they tell me, because I know what's going to be next for them. Like if someone's got running shoes and they're doing all these, wanting to move their body, I know the next thing that's coming is that they're going to want to clean and clear their environment. It just is very intuitive in the way that we know that we need to shift our energy when it's stuck, and it gets stuck based on difficult times in our lives. That's where our energy gets stuck. It's like we get frozen and we don't know how to start to move again. This is how you start to move This is how you start to heal again. And then the last section of Get Quiet is how you begin then to discover, the truth of who you are.
And how do you re-inspire yourself? Especially like I think I was just talking about this and I was thinking about like how in our 20s, right? Or when we're young, we have all these milestones to look forward to, right? We have making more money, growing our career, right? All the world is a possibility, right? From where we will go to school, where we will end up, where we will travel to, then, having kids, wedding, you know, and you know like all these things are ahead of us, right? But then we get 35, 40 over, okay, so we've grown in our career, right? Maybe became, promoted, leading teams, then we've been married and many times divorced, and we've had the house, we've had the check boxes, right? And then we still, how to reignite, because it takes, and many people are still working out and moving, like moving the energy. It's not that but they're still going through the motions, and kind of mentally just like kind of surviving. How do we re-inspire, reignite, right? That commitment for something new, for this inspiration.
And everything you mentioned in the first half of adulthood is everything outside of us. The house, the husband, the job, the kid, everything, because we've created everything outside of us. But what we haven't really connected to is our inner world. This is now in midlife the time where now you've connected outside yourself for all these years. Now it's time to connect inward. This is the shift in midlife. And when you connect inward, that's where curiosity, that's where imagination, all of this now begins to bubble up. Intuition. A lot of my clients will say, I don't have intuition. I've never had intuition. What is intuition? Or I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it comes back online again. And so it's a very different way to start to reimagine your life. It's not just what you want to create outside of you, but it's who do you want to create within you and your beingness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference now in midlife.
And
We
is it
want
like imagining the way you want to feel, who you want to be?
it's imagining anything that comes to your mind, because in so many cases we've even lost the ability to have our imagination back online. And it's because we've lived a lot of life up until midlife, and a lot of times we haven't healed from difficult times in our life.
Mm.
And so this is the time where you go inward and you heal and you start to feel who you really are,
Mm-hmm.
instead of shopping or eating or doing any other bad behaviors
Mm-hmm.
to numb yourself. This is about feeling again. This is about healing emotions again. And it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be hard. And that's why I wrote Get Quiet, is because these are 7 simple paths to healing and rediscovering who you are later in life. It's very simple. This does not have to be hard. Of course, there will be change,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all good. And it's all for the good, for the second half of your life. This is your time now.
I love that. And I love the lightness in your energy and kind of when you speak about it. And how would you reconcile it with, we've been, I don't know if it's the right way to say it, we've been taught or you know, there's this idea that you have when you start something new, right? That you might have to work hard for years to build it up. So I wanted to ask you for in your experience, right? When you transitioned into life coaching, like, like how do people know if they pursue something like that it's how easy will it come or how will they have to because there's this idea that you might have to build something for years without getting paid, right? And it might not be successful for like what was your experience when you started something new?
Well, first of all, I never would recommend, particularly women, um, give up any type of income, because I believe that when we are self-sufficient that way, that we don't have to succumb to selling out in other parts of our lives. So I was always mindful of that. And I didn't leave my dental hygiene practice until I knew I could sustain myself as a coach. So that did take time, and that's the reality of it. But there's a lot of resources out in the world and online to help you.
Mhm.
So you just have to have the courage to do it. And I remember, changing this identity from, oh, I need to start calling myself a life coach. And even when I wasn't a full-time life coach, I started speaking it out loud to people. They would say, well, what do you do? "Well, I'm a life coach," even though I really wasn't at the time. I was still a hygienist. I was in between these two worlds.
Mhm.
But you can manifest anything, and you can speak it out loud and be intentional. Again, the word intention, and to have these intentions, is very powerful, very powerful. So that's what I did. And I was always financially safe because of that during that transition. And and that's how I transitioned. And now I'm transitioning from not as much being a life coach, but a spiritual guide. And I run retreats, get quiet retreats, and I take people on these paths. And that was also then my next jump. I went from coaching one-on-one to now, retreats.
Mhm.
And so now I'm a retreat leader, and
Mhm.
now I'm an author.
Mhm.
So we have to make space to open up for various different identities throughout our life. Like I said before, our purpose is to experience ourselves in as many ways as we possibly can, because
Mhm.
we're here to learn.
I love
We're here
that.
to learn.
It's an evolution, right? We keep growing, like we keep expanding, and it's this. I think that our mind, it's probably the monkey mind that wants like this linear answer, right, to feel safe, but it's kind of this playful process of evolving and changing, and this dance.
And it takes self-love, it takes confidence,
Mm.
and all the tools that I have in Get Quiet will help with that. When I first started to, like, the Get Quiet is also on Audible. You can listen to it. And Hay House said, your voice is so soothing, let's also have you do some meditations. So, and I didn't think, I mean, I could never have seen that coming. And so now I'm doing meditations and visualization. So, you just, you got to trust and know that whatever you are curious about, there's a reason for that. There's a reason. And it may not end up being what pays the bills, but at least you can have fun with it and just have it be an outlet
Mhm.
and not have an attachment around it. I was not attached to any of this that has come into my life. I was curious. I stayed focused. I was probably courageous and took some risks and chances along the way, but and here I am,
And you were
very open.
open to the signs, noticing the synchronicities and kind of there's that song, I think it's like but like how do we cross something? I think it's a Christmas song, like about like that you do it one step at a time. So I love that. And are you open to sharing how you met your, fiance, your sweetheart?
Yeah, well, I had wanted to start building my coaching business. So I knew that I had heard that there was like a week-long retreat in Maui. But at the time, I didn't know how I was going to pay for that. But I signed up anyway, because something just said, like, that's where you're going to get the tools to become an entrepreneur and learn the business side of everything. Well, then I got scared. I tried to back out of it, and the retreat leader wouldn't let me because they had their rules. And so I ended up going. I tried to get out of it twice, actually, but I wasn't able to. So then I went, and that's where I met my fiance. He was actually a speaker there. And
Wow,
so yeah, had I not followed this life coaching path or any of these interests or these urges that kept me moving in a certain direction, we would never have met.
that's beautiful. Well, Elaine, thank you so much for sharing your story, so openly. And I love the mix of like the spirituality and the practicality, because I think it's not, we're in this world and both aspects are meaningful, valid, and important. I think that both this 3D and the physical, like I think sometimes it's too much like that. If you're spiritual, then material can be dismissed and vice versa. But I think that all of them are equally sacred and important. And I think that's what you embody and communicated so well. I love how you put the purpose and finding it in a way that's more playful, that takes off the pressure. And thank you for the book. It's really, I recommend that people read it. It's called Get Quiet. And it really, it is a page turner, so you will enjoy it. How can people find you, follow you, and connect with you?
They can find me at elaineglass.com. They can find the book at getquiet.com. And I'm on Facebook as well as Instagram. Instagram is elaineglass.author.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I loved our conversation.
I did too. Thank you so much for having me.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that you would want to leave us with?
We covered so many things because you are extremely bright and intuitive. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to go through the book. I really don't feel like there's anything more. I think you really covered it so beautifully. So I thank you so much for your wisdom, for your open heart, and mainly for your playfulness and intuition that came into play today.
Oh, thank you for seeing that and acknowledging it. And one thing I did want to say is congratulations on your book, because I know it's recently released.
Thank you so much.